Imagine you're in a lab. In front of you is this machine with a bunch of switches that go all the way up to 450 volts, and it's marked danger, severe shock. Now, in the next room, a guy you just met starts screaming, begging you to stop, but a researcher in a lab coat just calmly tells you you have to continue. So what do? This isn't just some thought experiment. It's one of the most famous and, frankly, infamous studies in history. Okay, let's just start with one number. A number that has haunted psychology for more than 60 years, 65%. That's how many ordinary people, folks just like you and me, went all the way. They delivered what they thought was a lethal 450-volt shock to a total stranger. You know, it's so easy for us to sit here now and say, of course not, no way. We all like to think we'd be the one to stand up and walk out. But the chilling thing is for about 2/3 of the people who were actually in that room, the answer was yes. And that tells us something deeply uncomfortable, not just about them, but about all of us. So how did Stanley Milgram even get that shocking 65% figure? To really get it, we've got to go back in time, into his basement lab at Yale in the 1960s, and see just how cleverly he set the whole thing up. The setup was really a masterpiece of deception. People thought they were there for a simple memory study, but the whole thing was rigged from the start. The real participant was always the teacher, and their job seems simple enough. Every time the learner gets an answer wrong, you give them a shock. And here's the key part. You increase the voltage by just 15 volts each time. It's that slow, gradual ramp-up that's so important. So what happened when people started to push back? When they said, hey, I don't think I can do this? Well, the experimenter didn't yell or threaten them. He just used one of 4 calm, scripted phrases. That's it. No force. Just this quiet, persistent pressure from someone who seemed to be in charge. And for most people, that was all it took. And you have to understand, the participants weren't just flipping switches in a silent room. They were hearing these pre-recorded and very convincing screams of agony. At 315 volts, the learner would shout this exact phrase. And then after 330 volts, just an eerie silence, which, implies the worst. And still, the majority kept on going. So what in the world was going on inside their heads? Milgram called it the agentic state. It's this powerful mental switch where you stop seeing yourself as responsible for your actions. You become an agent for someone else. It's like you're outsourcing your conscience, right? The guy in the lab coat is calling the shots, so anything that happens is on him, not you. It's a mental loophole that lets good people do terrible things. And this is where it all connects to our lives today. Back in Milgram's day, authority was obvious. It was a person in a lab coat standing right there. But today, the authority is invisible. It's code. It's the algorithm that's deciding what you see, what makes you angry, and what you do next. The lab coat is gone, but the experiment has just scaled up to include the entire planet. So if there's no guy in a lab coat, what is it that's compelling us? The truth is, the experiment has broken out of the lab. It's running 24/7, right on the device in your hand. And the ways it prods us to obey are way more sophisticated than anything Milgram ever dreamed up. So let's break down 3 of the most powerful ways this new digital obedience works, these invisible forces that have become today's authority figures. First up, we've got the master puppeteer, the algorithm. Think about your social media feed. It's not random. It's learning what pushes your buttons, and it just gives you more and more of it. It's exactly like Milgram's 15-volt steps. It might start with something kind of interesting, then show you some rage bait, and it just slowly dials up the emotional voltage to keep you scrolling. It's guiding you, step by step, without ever saying a word. And the result of all this? We get stuck. A recent study found that a staggering 80% of us are trapped in these algorithmic echo chambers, where our own beliefs are just reflected back at us over and over. The algorithm becomes the new authority, constantly telling us we're right and making it harder and harder to even see a different point of view. Next, you've got the power of the digital crowd. In the experiment, people didn't want to get into an argument with the researcher. Today, we don't want to get into an argument with the entire internet, right? The fear of an online mob coming after you or of being canceled is a huge motivator that pressures us to just agree, or, more often, just stay silent. Okay, and this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Just look at these 2 numbers. 65% of Milgram's participants obeyed all the way to the end, and a Pew Research study found that 62% of us admit we censor ourselves online because we're afraid of what people will say. The numbers are almost identical. It shows that the pressure to conform is just as powerful, whether it's coming from one person in a lab coat or from a faceless digital crowd. And last but not least, there's the sneakiest prod of all, making you think it was your idea. Think about Netflix automatically playing the next episode, or that daily streak on Duolingo you don't want to break. These aren't orders, they're nudges. They're designed to make continuing the easiest possible option. It brilliantly reframes obedience into what feels like your own personal choice. Okay, so this all might sound a little bleak, but here's the thing. Even in Milgram's original experiment, there were always people who said no. The real question is, how do we become one of them? How do we start to take back control from these invisible experimenters? Now, you might think the people in that experiment would have been horrified afterwards, but a follow-up found something totally unexpected. 92% said they were actually glad they did it. Why? Because as awful as it showed them something profound about themselves and about the power of authority. And that's the key takeaway. Awareness is the first, most powerful step to taking back control. So how do we build that awareness? Well, here are a few simple but really powerful tools. Try digital detox. Even just cutting back on screen time can help break the spell. Actively diversify your info diet. Go out and find views that actually challenge you. Learn to spot the nudge, that little pre-checked box that's making a decision for you. And when you feel that FOMO, that fear of missing out on a trend, just pause for a second and ask yourself, is this really me, or am I just following a prod? So here's the bottom line. Milgram's experiment never really ended. It just went digital. The lab is in your pocket now, and the prods are silent, they're personal, and they are relentless. Which leaves all of us with a question we have to ask ourselves every single time we unlock our phones. When you scroll, when you click, when you share, who's really in control? Is it the algorithm, or is it you?